We are here at Jeremy Olander. You're playing here in Ottawa. A little bit of a cold night tonight, but I feel like that's not something new for you to deal with.
It's a couple degrees colder than Stockholm, but yeah, I'm used to this kind of weather for sure.
What's been the biggest challenge since you first started to tour? And we kind of briefly, before we turn the mic on, mentioned that you'd been here before. What's been the biggest challenge over that whole process from last time you were here to now?
It's kind of to find a routine. For me, it's very important to have a routine. I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but for me, I love to wake up at 9 and work till 5 and sit in the studio during that time when people, business hours. And to kind of switch off the touring, because when you're on tour, you don't know what time it is, you don't know where you are sometimes when you wake up, and to find a balance there, it's not easy, and it's something that I still struggle with, but that has definitely been a big challenge for me. The more shows you do, the harder it gets, and it's kind of like, I don't know if you call it double-edged sword, but it's like I love the touring, but it takes its toll, So I like it, but it can be tough sometimes.
Did you find that there was a challenge with being away from your friends and family, and has that impacted going on tour or wanting to go on tour?
Not really. I think me being an only child growing up with my parents, I didn't have any siblings. I enjoy being on my own. I don't have a need to have a tour manager. I don't need someone to talk to all the time. I enjoy the time on my own, and I know how to handle myself in that alone time. So that hasn't really been the struggle for me, to be honest. I know a lot of people are, they have a tour manager just because they can't be alone. If you're like me, I plug in my SD card. I don't need someone to do that for me. I can do that on my own. So for me, it's been quite easy to be alone.
Is there a big difference in the crowds between Scandinavia and, say, Canada?
It was easier for me before to be able to tell a difference. Scandinavia is really picking up now. I do like a yearly show in Stockholm, which has really taken off, and that wouldn't have been possible a couple of years ago. Because we have so many big commercial acts like Avicii, Swedish House Mafia, all these guys, and they really educated a lot of the Swedish crowd onto EDM, the EDM sound, and I went that way as well. I went to see Sebastian Ingrosso and Steve Angelo in a basement in Stockholm when they were playing like electro stuff. So they really got me into the scene, and then I discovered all these different sounds. Like the progressive style, some more techno, and I can see a lot of people in Sweden going that same way now. But when I started touring in Canada and North America, people were open to anything. They weren't really judging you based on what you were doing. If they liked it, they liked it. If they didn't, they didn't. And in Sweden, it was techno was very associated with drugs and stuff like that. And I didn't really see that in North America. But now it's kind of leveled out a little bit, and I can't really tell them apart anymore.
That's an interesting analogy, because Ottawa itself, I've been here for about 2.5 years. I grew up in the Toronto scene, so I followed all that. Came here, and there wasn't anything but the commercial sound and the odd thing. And then even in the last 3 to 5 months, it's just exploded in the city. And now you're talking big artists that are coming through, or different unique sounds. Is it exciting to still be involved in bringing something new to a new city? Is there a place that you like when you go to a new place you've never been, you get like jitters and you're interested to really expose people to what you are?
Yeah, of course. Before I would try and adapt a little bit and play the more the tracks that people would recognize, but now I just try and focus and do my own thing. I can start super deep in a new city where I've never played before, and people are very up for it, whereas like you said, a couple of years ago, it would have been completely different. and I'm very happy where the scene is going now, because people are they're more open to different sounds, and they're curious, because they've heard a lot of it already, So for them to hear something new, it's refreshing. And if you're not a part of that kind of scene, then you probably move on to the next big thing, like some pop artist or whatever it could be, So I think whoever sticks around, it's great. It's very healthy.
Is there a Canadian artist or singer that you're really interested in, like their work?
On the top of my head that I can think of, I mean, I'm a big hip hop fan, and I used to be very strictly into, 90s New York, East Coast hip hop, and I've opened up a little bit about that, and I really like what Drake is doing with his OVO label, and the artists that he picked up, Majid Jordan, and all those guys. If we're looking at like techno stuff, I think Tim Penner is doing really good stuff, and then I mean you have Richard Houghton, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite bad, to be honest, at like really digging into music. I get a lot of music sent to me, and I listen to that, and I have some people that I know will send me good stuff, so I listen to what they send me. But to do it on my own, I'm not great. I try to dig into like his history, so like rock music from maybe the 70s, 80s, that kind of stuff.
Is that important to you, that you have a full spectrum to kind of draw from, whether it is you're just listening and going for a walk or preparing to produce or play a set?
I think it's more about like as a consumer, I like to diversify what I'm listening to. I think it gets kind of dull listening only to one genre. So like if I look at my Spotify playlist, it's so mixed up, it's ridiculous. Like you will have some death metal in there, and then you'll have some Van Morrison, and then some I mean it's everything in there. So I think I would get bored if I would only listen to one genre exclusively, So for me it's important to mix it up, for sure.
Is there someone that you would suggest keeping their eye on over the next couple months that you think's going to get really big, or you're really excited to see the next thing from him or her or them?
Well, I got to promote myself and my label a little bit here, but Tim Engelhardt, which I put out an EP from a couple of months ago, he's this guy from Germany, and he's just making amazing stuff. He is so incredibly creative. I don't know how he stays this creative, and he's very young. I think he's 19, and the sound he has is so mature. So I expect big things from him. And then I have Andre Holman coming up on the label as well, which I think is a great guy, and he's putting out some amazing stuff as well. I think the German guys, they have something special. They have the melodies and they have the rhythms. So it's definitely the sound that I'm into at the moment.
What do you have on the way for 2018? Do you have anything starting you off or finishing you for this year or starting next year?
I'm finishing off the year with an EP on Anjuna Deep, which is really fun because I've been a fan of what they do for a long time, and we've tried to work something out for quite a while, and we finally landed in something which I'm excited about. And for me, music-wise, next year, I think I'm figuring out what I want to put out on my label, and then I'm sending out a couple of demos to some other labels that I really respect and that I would like to be involved in. But nothing is set in stone for next year, so I'm going to keep it open.
I look forward to tonight. Hopefully we'll make it there before it gets too cold outside, and we go forward from there. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, man.